I want to be KnowBotty, cause KnowBotty can do everything.
Good morning, evening, or afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 1 of How to Play 7 Days to Die, a beginner's guide. Today, we're going to concentrate on getting your game started, your settings for your options and all of that. So, for making sure that the game runs smoothly, for the most part. So, the first thing you want to worry about is your video settings under options. There's a couple things in here that will actually really affect your performance, even if you have a good computer. Sometimes it's a good idea to turn off the reflected shadows and make sure that your reflection quality is off. Now, the reason why you do this is because it takes up a lot of rendering space in your video card. And with as many zombies as can be on screen at one time, doing all of that during a high zombie count can actually drive your performance down to like 2 or 3 FPS. It's going to keep you alive a little longer if you actually run higher frames. That way you don't have jerkiness. I like to keep anti-aliasing off myself. It's according to your video card to whether you should do that or not, but those are the things that really affect your performance the most. Water quality, the water's not the greatest in the game yet. They're still working on it, so I keep that low as well. Other than that, your gamma is basically just for brightness. There's no need to change that unless you want to be able to see at night, which some people would consider cheating. Your UI background opacity doesn't matter. Your foreground opacity doesn't matter. Shadows distance, I like to keep them near. You can cut off shadows completely for a major performance increase. So just remember that. If you're lagging on Horde Night, that's probably a good idea to do. Tree quality, I would keep this as high as possible because it just really changes the way that the game looks if you bring it down. The trees will be two-dimensional at most times if you drop it any. Grass distance normal. That basically just that allows you to set how far you can see grass, which I like to keep it at normal. It's I'm not running the greatest computer in the world, and I still get decent frame rates with it on normal, so it's not that big of a deal. However, I will stress that grass is probably one of the hardest things for your graphics card to deal with in general in any video game. So you might want to think about changing that one if you're really hurting for performance. So we'll leave this here now that we've covered that, and we'll go into your actual game options when you start a new game. So let's cancel that, go back, and then go to new game. Now, your game name here is your seed for random world gen. There's multiple game modes. There's survival, single player, survival, multiplayer, and creative. Now, in creative, there's no zombies, and you have access to everything in the game. That's just if you just want to learn to build, which sometimes I recommend people that are into building go on and start a creative game to start with. That way you don't have everything else to deal with. Survival multiplayer is the same thing as survival single player, except for you start up a server and you're allowed, or you can let your friends join. But for the purposes of let's play, we're going to go with survival single player. Now, your game world is kind of important here. Navigain is a pre-made map that is all over the internet. So if you want to be able to find things easily and you don't mind going on the internet and searching for the locations of things, Navigain is a good way to go. It's a pretty small map. It's pretty limited, but it's a really good map. I don't run it personally because I like having a new world every time I play. I'm going to be running random gen for this one, and your game name here is what matters for random gen. Random gen is completely randomly generated using the seed from your game name. So if you run beginner's guide along with me, you will actually have the same map that I do. A couple of POIs, or points of interest, which are basically the computer generated buildings and stuff. They might be in slightly different places, but the cities will be in the same place. You'll have hills in the same place, all of that, if you run with beginner's guide. That's basically what decides what your map looks like. Now, under standard options, I'm going to leave everything in here as completely default for this Let's Play, but I will go through and explain these things. Your difficulty settings, Nomad's default, that's what I recommend starting out with. This is how hard the zombies are to kill. Scavenger, you can pretty much one-hit most of your zombies. Adventurer is a little bit harder. Nomad is, it's the mid tier for difficulty. It's actually, I run most of the time on Nomad because of the types of games that I play don't require me to have super hard zombies. I'd say it would be more realistic. It's more like a Walking Dead style zombie. Warrior and Survivalists, these are where the zombies get kind of hard to kill. You'll have to hit them multiple times in the head with most weapons in order to kill them. And Insane is just insane, like it says. Now, the thing about the difficulty settings in this game is the higher they are, they just become bullet sponges. It's not that they have any extra abilities or anything like that. It's just you have to pump more ammo into them to kill them. So you need to think about that when you set your difficulty settings. Do you want to waste a lot of ammo on the same amount of zombies or what have you? So you can still one-hit most zombies on Nomad difficulty if you hit them in the head. So think about that when you're setting your difficulty settings. Daylight length is 18 hours by default. You can shorten the days, which I don't recommend for a beginner, to where you only get 12 hours of daylight, because at night zombies do run. So you need to think about that. It's a lot harder to play at night. Generally at night, especially for beginning, you will spend most of your time indoors. So if you set like a low daylight length, you're going to have a lot more nighttime hours, and you're going to end up spending a lot of time just sitting there, not doing anything. So I always go with 18, no matter what I'm playing, because you want longer days. That way you don't have to sit around as much. Zombies run default is a good idea. Basically what this means is during the day the zombies are standard zombies that don't run. But at night, they do run, which kind of adds a new flair to the game. I like that they're running at night. You can set it to never run, where they're walking all the time, or always run, where they're always running, which gets really hard, actually. Persistent profiles for gameplay doesn't really matter. All that does is allows you to set whether or not you have the same avatar the entire time. Or allows you to switch up avatars mid-game. Like every time you come in, you can choose a new avatar if you feel like it. So I just leave that to off. 24-hour cycle. Here's a big deal. Okay, so you can either go with anywhere from 10 minutes up to 120 minutes. Now, what this does is makes your days longer or shorter based on how your playstyle is. Shorter days makes for a harder game, because every 7 days you will have a zombie horde that comes in and trying to kill you. So if you set it on 10 minutes, you've got less time to prepare for that, which makes it so much harder to deal with. Usually on a Let's Play, I'll go with 120 minutes because I spend a lot of time talking. But for this, we're actually going to go with the default 60 minutes, which is what most people will start out with anyway. So that gives you about, not quite 30, well, let's see, 18. Yeah, you'll have about 40 minutes of daytime, I think. Somewhere close to that, and then 20 minutes of nighttime. So that's a nice mix. I mean, it lets you progress quickly enough, and also keeps you from having super long days. So that's a good thing, especially if you don't have a lot of time to play the game. You'll probably want 60 minutes. Block durability, basically this is the durability of all the blocks that you place and all the blocks in the game. So at 100%, they're standard. They take the same amount of time that everybody else's does to break. You can set them at 25%, but that makes every block weaker. That means zombies can break them easier, but so can you. So that's really something that you'll have to play around with on your own to figure out how you want that set. Loot abundance, I always leave it 100%. That's the way that the fun pimps have it designed. You can set it up to 200%. So what would happen at 200% is you get twice as much loot than you normally would. You can set it all the way down to 25% if you're playing a hardcore version. I don't recommend that for brand new players. Loot respawn time, 30 days is default. You can set it as low as 5 days and as high as 50 days, and you can also completely disable loot respawn time. So if you're going for realism and you want it to be basically like it would be in the real world, when you loot something, it's gone. You don't ever loot it again. So you can set it to disabled. However, 30 days is pretty good for beginning. That teaches you to actually explore your surroundings after you loot. That's what we're going to leave it at. So it's going to take 30 in-game days for our loot to respawn in this situation. Drop on death, everything is default. Basically, when you die, you're going to drop a backpack, and everything that you have on you at the time will be in that backpack. So you can run back to the backpack, and you have to survive long enough to pick it up completely naked. So that adds a little bit of difficulty to the game. You can make it to where you only drop everything on your tool belt, which is the things on your hotbar, or you can drop everything in your backpack, or you can delete everything. Now this delete all right here, that's a death sentence for new players. Don't do it. Basically what that does is when you die, you lose everything on you. You're going to die. If you're a new player, you're definitely going to die. The zombies in here can just sneak up on you out of nowhere, so be careful with that. I would recommend drop on death to everything until you get used to everything, and then you can decide where you want to go. Blood moon count. This is how many zombies will show up on your horde nights. This is the max enemies that are alive at any given time on horde nights. So you can set it at the default of 8. I usually go with 64 for my heavier games, but for this one we're just going to do 8 enemies because this is a beginner's guide. I recommend leaving this on 8 enemies to start with until you're sure your computer can handle it and you're sure you can handle it. The blood moon count 8 enemies is pretty low. It's going to be pretty easy to make it through your horde nights, but until you get used to setting up specific bases, decide what base build you want to go with, I recommend going with 8. Enemy spawning, obviously on. That would cut off zombies if you cut that off, and what's the fun in that for learning to play a game. Airdrops every 3 days. Now, every 3 days, the way it's set up here, every 3 days you'll get a plane that comes by and drops off a crate of gear. Now, inside of that crate, it's completely random on what's in the crate. So it could be useful stuff, it could be non-useful stuff. Now, I've found a lot of really useful stuff in the airdrops. You can set it to every 1 day, which to me feels like way too many, because you'll get to the point pretty quickly to where you're just like ignoring them and not paying attention to them. But we're going to set it to every 3 days, which is standard because we want to go with standard settings for this Let's Play. But personally, I like to do every 7 days sometimes because it feels like every 3 days may be a little bit too much if you're trying to ramp up the difficulty slightly. Now, cheat mode, that is more of a multiplayer setting than a single player setting. Cheat mode allows other players to use the creative mode and creative tools. In multiplayer, it doesn't really do much for a single player because you can cheat either way. I will do a guide on that later once we've gotten through, just in case you want to go creative one day and just build a base and not have to worry about zombies, which generally everybody ends up doing sooner or later. Mark airdrops off is default. Now, for beginners, I actually recommend going on to start with. That way you don't lose your airdrops. We're going to go with on for this one so you can see what I'm talking about. If you keep it off, basically you'll have to watch it as it falls, and wherever it lands you need to get there immediately, which with these large maps can be anywhere. So I recommend leaving it on for new players. I'm going to leave it on for this just so I can show you how it works. Now, that's all your settings for your new game. There's a lot of settings here. You can set your game up to be exactly how you want it to. So, play around with those once you get used to playing a little bit, but for now, I recommend going with these settings. I'm going to leave the seed name in the description of every video in this playlist. So, you'll be able to at any time, if you decide you want to play in with us, then you can join in the seed just by creating a game name of that type, or of that name. So we're going to go on and hit start and get into the game. Welcome to 7 Days to Die. Okay, so the first thing you want to do on day 1 is you want to worry about your quests. Then you want to find a base. Then you want to worry about your tools and weapons. And then start mining and looting and preparing for the first night. So we're going to go through in that order, and I'm going to show you how to do this. Now, to start with, you get the started basics of survival. This is an actual quest. So it says, dear friend, the wasteland can be an unforgiving place and you look like you could use some help. Enclosed is a short guide to help you survive. If you complete it, we just might take in a new citizen. The White River settlement, it's real and it's safe. Good luck, Noah. Okay, so we hit continue on that, and it says basic survival is your active quest. The quest status is displayed on the objective tracker in the top of the screen. For more information on quests, access your inventory and navigate the quest menu. So the first thing you want to do is, like it says, if you want to get familiar with your UI here. So if you hit tab, it'll bring up your crafting. Now this should be your default button for inventory and all of that is tab. B will bring up your character pane and show you your gear and everything. You start out somewhat naked, not completely naked. This isn't Rust. You've also got your crafting up here, which is your default tab that I was talking about. You've got a map pane, so this will show you your map, but it only shows you places that you've been because this is random gen. It's basically like getting dropped off in a place you have no idea where you're at. You've got your skills pane here, which is going to be very important later. We'll get into that probably near the end of this episode. And your quests. The quest is what matters here. Now, if we have one active here, so I'm going to toggle that active so you see what it's like. You notice how up in the upper left hand corner my quest went away when I did that. So basically you're going to have a list of all your quests down in this tab here, and you just click the quest that you want to activate, and you toggle active with this exclamation point right here. You can also tell it to show on map if there's like a special place you want to go for the quest. We'll get into that with the trader quest. And then you can actually remove the quest, which I definitely don't recommend doing. You've got a journal, which I've never really looked into, but this gives you a bunch of good information about everything in the game. So if there's anything that you don't understand, you can always read the journal about it, and it might help you out. Players is only for multiplayer. It'll show everybody that's attached to the server at the moment. We might get into that for a multiplayer episode later, just to show you how to do the multiplayer stuff in case you have friends that want to play with you. And for now, we need to worry about the quests. So now that we've got the right quest active, we need to go ahead and complete this quest. Now, the first thing you want to do when you first come in, if you're doing quests, is start punching grass. That's the number one thing that your quest tells you to do, is gather 20 plant fibers, and this is how you do it. Now, sometimes these are a little finicky on how you hit them, so be careful with that. You can punch grass to gather it, though. So that's the first thing we do, is just punchy punch. Now, we've got 20 plant fibers, so we want to go ahead and make our bedroll. So hit tab to bring up your menu, and then craft the bedroll here. Sorry, breadroll. I've been playing too much of another mod. Now, this takes a little bit of time to complete. This is where you're going to end up spending most of your time waiting if you do. I do recommend generally doing things while you're waiting on your stuff to be made. Just don't forget that you're making it. Now, there's two ways to bring something down from your inventory into your hotbar. You can either hold shift and click it, or you can just drag the item onto your hotbar. You can do the same thing to pull it off of your hotbar. You can shift click it or drag it off. Now, the only things that we really need here to start with on our hotbar are going to be our bedroll and our first aid bandage. Now, it wants us to place a bedroll. So you place the bedroll by pointing where you want it to, waiting for the square to show up white, and then right clicking. I always, especially in these cold biomes like this is called the winter biome or the snow biome. You don't want to start here. If you start here, you're probably going to die pretty early. This is a harsh place to live. So I usually pick up my bedroll to start with and then put it back down on my bar here and then move on. Now, what you want to do is you want to sit here and gather as you're coming through. Now, this is possibly the most important thing ever in this game, is bird's nests. You want to make sure you loot all bird's nests. Now, there's two ways to loot this. Or three ways. You can either drag, like before. You can hit R, or E, sorry, to quick loot. I've got other hotkeys. I've got to remember the originals. So you can either hit E. I believe it's E. It might be Q. It'll show you on there which one to use. But that'll just loot everything. That's the quickest way to loot. That's the best way to do it early. Now, from these bird's nests, you're going to get feathers. And these feathers are possibly your most important thing to get early, because it allows you to kill zombies from a distance. And also, that's part of your quest that you're going to have soon. So if you see one, pick it up. They will be your best friend. All these little rocks around here, also pick them up. That is part of your quest, and you'll need wood too. Now, there's two ways to get wood early game. You can either find these little bushes like that and hit them for wood, or you can sit there and just beat on a tree. Beating on a tree takes a lot longer. I do not recommend it. So, picking up the wood that you need. So, we only needed 2 wood. And remember, loot every bird's nest. Now that we've gathered enough, we can craft our stone axe. So, we'll do that first. The reason you want to do these quests is because you actually get skill points for doing these quests. Plus, it's a really good way to start because, first off, they make you make tools. Tools help you gather. Gathering helps you survive. So, remember that. Now you'll just want to gather everything that it tells you to gather for your quest. So now it says to gather more plant fibers. So we'll just go punch some more plant fibers. I don't necessarily recommend using tools for it unless you want to level your tools. That's something that it's up to you. I like using my fists because I don't like beating up my tools early, because everything you do with your tools will make them lose durability. So remember that. It's a fine line between leveling them quickly and keeping them to where you don't have to replace them as often. So make sure you're picking up all your stones, all your wood that you can get early game, because this is going to come into play in a few minutes. And finish up your quests. So what we're going to do is we're going to gather... Okay, we've gathered the plant fibers. We need to craft our pants, shirt, hood, shoes, and gloves. So if you go into clothing tab here in your tab menu, it'll say, it'll give you a list of all the clothes that you can make. So we want to make one of each one of these, not the hood, or not the hat, but the hood, the pants, the shirt, and these shoes. Now while this is going, as you notice, I'm constantly gathering. Once all of these go green, it'll move on to another quest. So we just gather while we're doing the quest, basically. So continue to gather while we're doing the quest. We don't, for our quest purposes, we don't actually need any more plant fiber. A lot of mods you need more plant fiber, but you don't need a whole lot. Now, these tree stumps here, okay, we completed our quest. I'll get to that in a second. These tree stumps here are important. They usually have some pretty good stuff in them. Like this empty can be scrapped. If you hold down, or if you click on an item and you hit S, it'll scrap the item. Which is good sometimes, if it's a useless item. Those cans aren't necessarily useless. You can use those for water later. I'll get into that later. Search every item that you can find, like foul trash, everything like that early game. That way you can try to get better stuff. There can actually be good things in trash, believe it or not. Not everybody throws away the same things. Like this, okay, so cooking pot, very important early game. If you get one of these, do not scrap. You can scrap the empty cans, but I don't necessarily recommend it. Now this bedroll, we've already got one, so we're going to scrap it and get some free plant fibers out of it. So we're going to grab the rest of that stuff up. And then now what we need to do, now that we're working on our quests, is finish our quests. We need to put on the plant fiber gloves. Now there's 3 ways you can do this. You can either hit W to wear, or you can bring up your B menu and shift click on it like this. This is the quickest way to equip a lot of things quickly. I do hear a zombie over here, so I need to be careful. But it wants us to gather wood, which we already have, and which is why we were gathering to start with, and craft a wooden club. So now if you go under ammo weapons here, you'll have a list of all the weapons you can make. So we'll go with wooden club. You can either craft with W, or you can click the craft button. I usually use hotkeys. That's just something that you get used to over time. So I recommend, until you get used to hotkeys, be very careful with them, because you can accidentally scrap something that you don't want to. Let's see. So we need to gather more wood now that we've got that done. So we'll take out our axe and start beating on a tree here. We've got enough now. It wants us to craft a wooden bow and arrows. This is the reason why we wanted as many feathers as we could get, because for every arrow that you make, you need a feather. And the problem with that is you lose your arrows when you fire them. You cannot recover them. So every arrow you fire requires you to have a feather. That is probably the hardest thing to deal with. Now, used to, they would recommend that you craft a wooden bow after the arrows, but they've changed the way that the crafting works in this game. You don't get experience from crafting anymore, so it doesn't matter what order you go in. I recommend doing the bow first, that way you can continue to make arrows. And basically, once you equip your bow, you'll actually just want to hit the reload button, which is Q, I believe, and go on and load your bow. Now, you notice there's a lot of these around, so I'm going to pick these up. Like I said, birds' nests are very, very, very important. This zombie that you just saw over here, he's a big guy. You don't want to mess with him this early. They'll take forever to kill. So we're going to pretty much ignore him. He'll pretty much ignore us if we don't get too close and he doesn't see us. So we can go about our business. Now, what we want to do at this point, now that we've got those quests done, is we want to gather wood, which we already have, and craft a 3 wood frames. So we'll go to basics here, because that's the easiest way to get to it. Click wood frames here. I recommend going on and putting this on your favorites as well, because you'll be making a lot of these throughout your gameplay. So if you put them in your favorites, you can just access them through your favorites tab right here. Everything that you put in favorites will show up here. That's very helpful. It's like a quick menu of things that you like to make the most. So we'll make our 3 wood frames here. Now that we've got that done, we can go on and place these, which is what it wants us to do next. Now, we're just going to randomly place these, because we're looking for an actual base in a little while. So we're just going to place them and upgrade them by right-clicking with our axe. Now that we've done that and upgraded those blocks, we are finished with that quest. Now it wants us to gather the stones, so we need 8 small stones, which we used all of our stones for arrows, actually, so we need to go on and pick those up. Continue to pick up birds' nests that you see along the way. Pick up all your stones that you can find. Stones are going to be very important, but we've got a tool to pick them up already, so we're not too worried. Now we can build a campfire. So we want to build that first, and then put it on our hotbar and place it. Now that we've placed it, you can go on and cook any food that you might have at the moment up, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so you've earned skill points. Spend them by accessing your inventory and navigating to the skills menu, then highlight the desired skill or perk and purchase it. Now, your first day, I don't recommend during the day dealing with these too much. Wait until nighttime. You've got a lot of time to spend. So the next thing you want to worry about is your tools and your weapons. You need to make sure that you have all your tools, all your weapons. So if you follow your quests, you'll have that. First thing we need to do is we need to get out of the snow biome, and we need to find some sort of POI. I recommend the first thing that you hunker down in for the night is a pre-made building if you're new. There's no sense in making a whole base day 1 if it's your first game. There are some bases in here that are, there are some houses and stuff that will help you out. Now, I'm heading towards this water over here. And, oh, okay, so we've already got a town over here, which is good, but we're not going to go there to start with. We're going to try to stay on the outskirts because there's a lot of zombies in there, and we're not really strong enough to deal with them at the moment. But remember, loot everything as you walk by. Make sure you hit all of your birds' nests. Those are very important. I've probably already missed a few, so please don't yell at me. You run around. If you hold down shift, you can sprint. Now, you want to kind of pay attention to your stamina here. Okay, so see this house off in the distance here? I think we're going to go there for the first night. It's close enough to town to where we can get there the next day. We will go exploring tomorrow, but the number one thing for today is that we find us a place that's safe for the night. Okay, so now that we've got our weapon, we can actually take on our first zombie. These guys aren't the hardest to kill. You want a headshot, obviously. So if you hold down your left mouse button, it'll actually aim your weapon, right? So whenever you want to fire it, you just release the button. If you right click, it'll zoom in a little bit, but you'll lose your crosshair, so I don't recommend that for a new player. But basically, you just aim for his head and you let go. Just like that. Now, you can hit these guys in the chest, and a lot of time it'll knock them down. We don't have any skill points in our weapons yet, so we're not the most effective at using this bow. But I recommend going for either headshots, if you're good at first-person shooters, or go for chest shots. They're a little hard to hit because they move around a lot, so be careful with that. You don't want to waste all your arrows either, so... Ooh. Yeah, so we've got 2 zombies on us. Just keep moving away from the zombies and keep firing. So we just hit her in the head and it knocked her down. That's good. These guys move around a lot, so they're hard to hit in the head. You just have to time them out right. These guys are pretty easy to hit in the head. Their head stays almost in the same spot. Each different type of zombie has different head movements. You'll get used to them over time. Oh, cool. We got a bird's nest here. Always loot your zombies, and I recommend the first few you kill, you want to chop up as well. Now, early game, I recommend waiting for these things to do what's called gore blocking. You'll notice in a few seconds, they'll decay into just a block of pure gore, like this. Wait for that, because they're easier to break up then, and just beat them up with your axe. You'll get a couple items off of them, as you see in the lower right-hand corner. What we're looking for right now is bones. So, the first bone we get... Okay, good. We got a bone. So, the first bone you get off of a zombie, you want to make a bone shiv out of. So, you'll click on the large bone here and hit recipes. It'll bring up the things you can make with them. Only thing we can make at the moment is a bone shiv, so we'll make that first. We definitely want to equip that. Now, the reason why we want to do that is now we've got a way to chop up, or more effectively chop up anything we kill. There are animals in this game, and we do require eating a lot. So, like this stag over here. These guys, they're a little hard to kill to start with. I recommend going down into crouch, which I believe is left control, to stay crouched like this. Now, we want to get close to them. They're scared of you, so they will run from you if they see you. You want to get close to them and aim for a headshot, because if you don't get a headshot, you're going to have to chase them down, and that's going to be a really big pain in the butt. Patience is key here with these guys. Try to line up your shot to start with. Make sure you get a good solid shot to start with, or else you're going to have to chase them down. They can bleed out pretty easily, so if you get a good shot on them, just chase them long enough for them to die if you can't reach them. But okay, he's gone. See, that's why you got to be careful with... Okay, there he is. Like I said, they're scared of you. If they notice you're anywhere near, they're going to run. So we'll hit the next one that we see. There's no sense in chasing him down into the biome we just left. We don't like that biome. It's too cold. You will die. Pick up your goldenrod flower and your cotton as well, because cotton is used for making armor early game. So we want that. And you notice how I'm just ignoring these little zombie guys, because we're not too worried about killing them to start with. Pick up the chrysanthemum. That's useful for a thing called red tea that we're going to be getting into later. So pick up all of that. Make sure you loot your bird's nest. These guys are dumb. They'll just chase you around, and they're slow. So you don't have to worry too much about them. You can avoid them at like completely on day one if you want to. Once you get your bone shiv, I don't recommend really killing too many of them unless you're going for like a revenge play where you're trying to kill all the zombies. So we'll find that house that we saw over here. It's up on the hill here. Just don't pick up everything that you see here, just everything that's not out of the way. Unless it's a bird's nest, obviously. Then we'll head towards wherever we want to go. So we saw that house over here. That's where we're headed. We're trying to get ready for day one. Now at 2200 is when the sun goes down. That is when you want to be inside by, because that's when the zombies start running. They will run until 4 a.m. So between 2200 and 4 a.m. on your first night, you want to hunker down in a base and do stuff that takes time just to keep you busy. I'm going to show you everything that you can do at night on your first night that'll be useful. Like I said before, pick up all this little stuff along the way, just in your general path. I mean, you'll get enough doing it this way. And anything that you see here, like you can actually get a better weapon if you break these apart with your with your axe, and if you get lucky and get an actual tire, you can scrap it down for metal, which will allow us to get a better melee weapon, which is very useful. Like I said, all bird's nests, those are key. And then head towards your house that you saw. Now, these guys right here, they're a little harder to kill than the zombies we just killed. We definitely don't want to deal with them. These guys are slightly easy. They do move around a bit. Their heads pretty much stay the same spot for the most part. They can zigzag. Now, what we're going to have to do here, the reason why we haven't been wasting a lot of ammo is because we need to clear out the area of zombies. There will be zombies outside and inside of this building. This is where we're staying for the first night. So what we want to do is we want to walk around, make sure all the zombies are dead on the outside. So we need to kill them first. So walk around the house. There's one zombie up here. We will kill him. The reason why you want to do this is because when they're running at night, you don't want to have to deal with them coming in the house. Because they randomly pass and they can come up to the house. And if they see you at night, they're coming for you. Okay, so he's dead. You can wait for that to gore block and chop it up if you want. That can become useful later. But for now, we're just going to leave him be. Okay, so this right here is a lead deposit. You'll find all kind of deposits above ground. We're not going to break it all the way right now. I just wanted to show you this lead right here. This is what you make ammo with. You want as much lead as you can get in the game. So that being said, hold until you get better weapons. Okay, this door is locked. We're going to be smart and let her break it for us, because we have to break it either way. And we'll replace that maybe during the night. So go on and line up a shot with her. Wait for her to break the door, and as soon as she breaks the door, release your shot. There you go. That disorients her slightly, and she's stuck on the thing, so you can just kill her. Use your environment to help you. She's moving a little more than I thought she was. So if you can find a way to get them stuck on something, do it. Especially if there's a lot of them around. The easier you can kill them, the better off you are. Now, okay, so there's a sleeper in here, and I woke her up. I'll try to show you how to not wake up a sleeper in a second. Yeah, there's another sleeper in there. We're gonna try not to wake him up. Okay, so if you crouch down when you walk through, be careful on this right here. You will make noise, and you can wake something up. If you get too close to him, it'll wake him up. If you make any noise, it can wake him up. So you want to line up your headshot on your sleeper here. He's actually alive. He's just sleeping. But you can hit him and kill him before he ever wakes up. That's what I recommend doing. Okay, it sounds like we've got another zombie outside. We're going to have to take him out before nighttime. So the first thing to do before you loot anything is always clear zombies. Okay, he's right over here. He just spawned, I think. Yeah, there's 2 zombies we're going to have to take care of here. So we'll take these out. Okay, so when they get close to you like this, just pull out your melee weapon. Just make sure you have stamina, because it does use stamina, and try to get them in the head. That's something you want to get used to. Melee weapons can be very useful when you don't have any ammo. So I recommend to start with actually practicing with melee. The best way to deal with melee is to push into them while you're swinging. Once you swing, back up. It'll take a little getting used to, but you'll notice the bob and weave. That way they can't hit you, but you can hit them. Now, normally, most people would think, oh, I can put a door up here and the zombies can't see in. That is not true. Zombies can see through doors in this game. So what you're going to want to do here is we're actually going to make a platform up here that they can't get to for the night. I'll show you how to do that in a minute once I kill this other zombie out here. Okay, so this guy, he's a little harder to kill. We're going to do with ranged, because if we... Oh, we can't. We're out. Alright, so you're going to see how hard these guys are to kill. I need to make more arrows. Now you see why the... Ah, yeah, he hit me. So if he hits you, he's going to hurt. He's not going to kill you with one hit. There are certain mods out there that make it to where you're pretty much dead if you get hit. But this isn't modded, so... You see how hard he is to kill, right? Okay, once you get him knocked down, you should be able to kill them before they get back up. Just make sure you get headshots. Okay, so he's dead. And we've got another one over here. So, yeah, they're spawning quite a bit around here. But they shouldn't spawn once we place something down. So what we're going to do is we're going to kill him. We're going to go inside. And once we get inside, we're going to create something that'll keep them from or put something down that'll keep them from spawning. In fact, we need to do that before we kill all of them, because they just seem to keep spawning. Okay, so we're going to place down our bedroll in here. Wherever you want to, it's fine. But now that we've placed that down, that keeps zombies from spawning within a certain distance of your bedroll. So we just claimed this house, is basically what we did. Zombies can no longer spawn here. So now that we kill all of these off, they won't spawn anymore. And we will not be living here. We're just using this place for the first night. We're going to go exploring tomorrow, but that'll be in the next episode. I'm going to leave these episodes at 1 day per episode, so they'll be a little bit long, but hopefully there's enough information that I can give you. So now that we've got this all cleared out, we want to go on and start looting this place up. Bookcases are very, very useful. Every bookcase you see, you definitely want to open. We're going to definitely use that later. That helps us with our health, the first aid bandage. So we want as many of those as we can get. Now these crates here, you actually have to break open before you can loot. So that's why you always want to have a working tool on you. And just open it up, see what's inside. I didn't mean to hit that. Check everything in here, especially your first day. There can be some pretty nice loot in here. You might get lucky and find a gun. And other things. Like a sink here could have a wrench. We definitely want a wrench as soon as possible. So we're going to be specifically looting most of the day tomorrow. So what we want to do is just loot the area that we're initially in for the first night. You don't necessarily want to go out looting very much. And we're hitting 1,700 hours. So we need to start worrying about, okay, can we survive the night? The way to do that is to take your wood frames, make you a bunch up. We only have enough for 3, so we're going to have to go get some wood. We'll go chop down a tree or 2. But you want to make up a couple of wood frames and a few ladders. I'm going to show you the trick to where zombies cannot get to you at night. So you'll be safe at night. So how many of those can we make? We can make 13. We don't need that many. We're just going to make 5 to start with so we can give us a nice little area upstairs. We're gonna build an upstairs area for this house. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that it's like at least 3 high. So we'll go 4 high here, or yeah, the 4th right there, and just lay out our frames like this. Now, zombies cannot climb up specific things, so if you pay attention to that, you'll be safe. Now we're gonna take out this bed here because first off, it gives us good stuff. We're gonna need to repair this. This is a key thing. If you have enough small stone, which is what repair here is, you can actually repair the item. Now, early, it's not really the greatest thing to repair. You can actually just replace it with something maybe even better. But what we're going to do here is we're going to make a few ladders. So we go for ladder. You can either hit F to bring up this thing right here, or you can click inside of that box. And then you type ladder. And it brings up the list of ladders you can make. Now, we're going to have to make a couple. So let's go... 2. Okay, we're gonna make 2 of them. Well, actually, we need to make another. We're going to eat this food right here in order to make room. Yes, you can eat dog food in this game, which is pretty cool. So we're gonna make our ladders here. You notice this bottom piece of the ladder is missing because zombies can't jump. So without zombies being able to jump, they can't hit this ladder. But we can. Spacebar lets us jump. So we're going to go up the ladder here. And... okay. I'm going to have to break this up. Bad design here. But basically, we can crawl the ladder. But they cannot. So they're just going to sit there trying to get up to us all night if they come in. And they can't do it. So we can shoot them from above. And we're perfectly safe. This is something that I recommend doing first night as well if you're really bored and you run out of things to do, is breaking things. We're going to have to actually get rid of all of this too, because that's in our way. We can't place anything on these blocks up here if these are here. Let's see. We don't need to break them all, but we're going to anyway. So it's 18:25. We're getting close to nighttime. We've got us a place set up inside of the house, and we're good to go for the most part for the nighttime. We've got a little bit of food so we can eat at night. We don't have to worry about starving to death. Early game, you're going to be hungry all the time, and you're going to be thirsty all the time. That's something you're just going to have to deal with. That's why we continue to loot all the time. Now, if we die, the reason why we want to place this bedroll here is if we die, we'll spawn back here. So this is our home base for now. Now that we've gotten all of that done, we need to worry about storage. So we might as well put us a storage chest up here. Let's see. We need to go to... let's see. Oh, okay, that's page 2. We need to go to storage chest, secure storage chest here, and make 1 or 2 of them. I'm going to make 1 for now. I usually make a lot more, but I usually loot a lot more too. But for beginners, yeah, make 1 and just place it anywhere in here. Now we can open this up, and we can just put everything that we've got that we don't necessarily need. We're going to need plant fibers. We don't need our land claim block. That just lets us move things later. We want our feathers. Wooden chairs we're going to put in. Eggs. We need wood and small stone. We're going to put our raw iron away, our lump of coal, lead, nitrate powder. The reason why we're going to leave certain things in here is because they're useful. And we need to create more tools along the way anyway. So we're just going to leave the stuff like that we need in. So check your bar here, make sure that nothing got put in there. Alright, so we're good to go. This is the stuff that you usually want to bring with you no matter where you go, especially early game. Now, we need the small stone for repairing and for making arrows. That's basically what I left. This is stuff that we have to use for arrows. But we need the small stone for tools as well. And that's what the plant fibers are for. So we're going to just go out here and start gathering stuff up until 2200. Basically all I'm going to do is until about 2130 I'm just going to be out here beating on trees and beating on stones. So I'll meet up with you at about 2300. And also killing any zombies that get close to the house. Okay, it's 21:23 now. I spent all the time in between just gathering things around the house, stone, wood, that sort of thing. Now it's time to start thinking about getting inside for the night because it's at 2200. When you hear that noise that you're about to hear very shortly, basically that means zombies are running. Now, we're prepared for the first night. We've looted up a bunch of good stuff to survive for the first night. So we'll go on and make sure that we put all that stuff away because we don't need to carry it with us. It will be useful later, however, so we don't want to get rid of it. Now, the things, like I said, that we always want to keep on us is our arrows, our things to make arrows, and our things to make tools with. So those are going to be very important early game, that you always have those with you. So I'm going to go on and make up as many arrows as I can. I didn't get enough stone, and I don't want to use up all my stone, so I'm going to make about 45 more arrows. You don't necessarily need that many, but it's a good thing to have early on. The more arrows you can make, the better off you are. It's for killing animals, for killing zombies at range. It's a really good way to kill sleepers when you're looting your town the next day. Now that we have a town, we know where there's a town at. So let's show our map. There should be a town over in this area, over in here somewhere. We're gonna go there tomorrow. We're gonna start looting up the town a little bit tomorrow and looking for a good place outside of town to start our actual base. We're not gonna live here. We're just staying here for the night. But we're safe up here now, so we can start worrying about our first night stuff. Our first night stuff, generally what you want to do is see we've got 11 points available now. There's a reason I saved it for now because we're pretty much stuck inside. So there's not much we can do at the moment. Now, we always want to go with toolsmithing to start with. That'll help us gather things faster. Weaponsmithing as well. That allows us to kill zombies faster because we can make better weapons that are stronger and last longer. So now that we've done that, we want to go on and start looking at what else might help us out. Now, the camel here allows us to go longer without drinking. That is a good thing. That is something that I feel this game you have to do slightly too much if you don't put points in. So I recommend putting points into that and also the survivor as well. But we don't have enough skill points for that, so we'll just deal with that. So now that we've got our skill points here, there's a couple things we can do at night that are productive. You can level your skill with your construction tools just by breaking things apart inside of the house. Make sure you don't break the stuff that you're, like the wall here that you're using to attach to, because that will make your stuff fall. You can break that stuff up. You can go downstairs and break things up too if you want to. We need to gather the stuff up in the house that we can use, like the chairs. Let's see. If there's a toilet in the place that you're at, you want to go on and break that apart too. You'll need some parts that come from that later. Very soon, hopefully. You can just break anything up that you see. That's a good way to build your skills first night. That's something that you can do for the most part for the entire night. You can also think about crafting. Like, you can actually craft your... We're going to do a campfire here. Since we've actually got a cooking pot, we're going to go on and do that. But I don't think we have anything to cook. But the cooking pot can be very, very useful too, because see these glass jars. If you find a water source like the water that's outside, we can fill these glass jars with water and actually boil it into bottled water, which is very good because we're going to need that. We're going to need a lot of water. You can also use these empty cans to do the same thing. We'll get into that tomorrow. And for now, we don't really have a lot to do, so I recommend if you're at this stage and you have what I have, just start breaking things apart inside of the building. But spend the entire night doing that because you'll actually gain skill ups from doing it. You can level up as well, which is very, very helpful. I'm going to go on and drop the campfire here. I'm going to put this downstairs because the zombies won't break it, and there's this thing... Basically, you can overheat in the game. You actually do have a heat in the game. So you don't want to put your campfire too close to where you're at all times. So you can either use these wooden chairs. That's why I like to pick them up. You can use these wooden chairs as fuel. They last 3 minutes and 20 seconds, or you can use wood as fuel, which only lasts 50 seconds per wood. I recommend picking up all the wooden chairs you can to start with to use that as fuel, because everything you cook, you're going to need fuel for. So now that we've got our base set up, we've got our skills filled out, and we survived the first day with no death, we're doing really well. I'm going to leave this episode here, and we'll come back for day 2. But if you are your first night, you'll actually want to continue to just break things up. I'll do that before we get back tomorrow. Like I said, until 400 hours, so 4 o'clock a.m. is when we can go back outside. But for the time being, just stay still and work on your skills. I'll see you tomorrow. As always, people, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like to show your support for the series. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see more, show that subscribe button some love. Be sure to click that notification bell to be notified of my daily releases, and maybe one of these videos on screen is of interest to you as well.